Hi, I'm Jeff with Radical Honesty, and I'm on the theme of the following Jesus and suicide. I'm on the last of the messages. In a few weeks, I'll start a new series on something else. But I spent a lot of time thinking of what I would say in this final message. And I thought about, okay, what kind of spiritual sort of guidance can I give to people who are contemplating this? Okay. And what made it difficult is there's a lot of different reasons why people contemplate taking their own lives. I'm going to give you a few and give you perhaps some general thoughts of what I would say. Now, you got to understand that the first thing I would say is don't do it. Second would be, here's a number, call them, get yourself talk to someone who's on a hotline. So I'm talking about the third thing I would say. They would say, Jeff, what should I do as a follower of Jesus Christ, as a believer in Jesus Christ? Well, the first scenario I'm going to give is someone who is under a lot of duress because they committed a heinous crime. I once knew someone who was a seminary graduate, went to the same seminary that I went to, and was a pastor. I think I had dinner with them before, okay? Well, what eventually happened is he swindled an elderly couple of their life savings. And then when they asked him questions, he killed them. Then as the police were closing in, he took his own life. Now, what would I say to him? Let's say before he took his own life, I would have said to him this: Jim, you need to turn yourself in. You can't hide from this. You need to turn yourself in and ask God for forgiveness. You got to be honest with this. Okay, because there's forgiveness at even the greatest of all crimes. Okay? Now, the second scenario was interesting. You didn't commit the crime, but the walls are caving in on your life. And your life's going to be miserable, a disaster. A few years ago, there was a famous financier by the name of Bernie Madoff, who scammed people of billions of dollars. Well, he went to jail. But on the 2-year anniversary of Bernie's, when he was found out, I think it was when he was arrested, his son, Mark Madoff, took his own life. Now, as far as we know, Mark didn't know what was happening through his father's dealings. But he couldn't get a job anymore. I mean, it's basically his career in finance is gone. Okay, he was being sued by people. And he took his own life. Now, let's say I had the opportunity to talk to Mark. What would I say to him if he said, Jeff, I'm seeking some spiritual advice. My life is ruined, okay? I'm never going to do what I do anymore. I wasn't part of the crime of my father, but I'm bearing the consequences of it. This is what I would say to Mark. Sometimes we can be innocent, but we are guilty by association, and we bear the result and the punishment and the penalty of it. What you need to understand is even if you lose your entire livelihood, let's say, in Jesus, there is a greater value than just the money we have and the job that we have. Don't put your trust in your job or in your millions of dollars. Put it in Christ. You got to start all over again. But you can't measure the success and soul value of your life by the money you have and the opportunity you have. Some of you might have lost quite a bit of money, You can always start all over again. Be it you may never regain where you were at. But in Christ, he can change all things, and even in humble means, bring us to a more enduring and closer relationship to him. A third scenario is that I've known 2 ministers who weren't guilty of any crime. They didn't murder anybody, but they were in complicated sort of emotional situations. And eventually they took their own lives while in ministry. The walls weren't caving in. They didn't do something that was heinous, but there was something very troubling within their life situation. What would I say to them before they took their life? If they said, Jeff, what kind of wisdom can you give me? Well, first, don't do it. Second, here's a number. The third thing, I said, you know what? You really need to get rest and sort out what's happening in your life. And the last thing you want to do is go into the ministry or keep on working in the ministry. Because serving Jesus Christ and your livelihood is in it, man, it comes with its own bunch of baggage and difficulties that will come, just add on of your pressures. Take a break. Give up the ministry. The final scenario is of students. I once knew someone who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived. I also minister in the Bay Area and ministered in a church in Palo Alto for a few years. And there's a famous high school in Palo Alto called Gun High School. It probably has one of the highest rates of suicide. Now, what's very interesting about Gun High School and Palo Alto in general is that it's very successful. The students are not hurting for money. It's not some inner city school, And the parents are very, they're smart. They're high-tech workers. They made a lot of money. Got to make a lot of money to live in Palo Alto, But there's a lot of pressure. A lot of kids think about taking their own lives or hate their lives. And this is a growing concern. What would I say to the parents? What do I say to the student? This is what I would say. Paul says, we got to raise up our children in, discipline of the Lord, but don't provoke them to anger. And there's an interesting balance. If you have this thing where, you got a teenager and they're like just really burdened, this is what you need. You need to go to somebody, a pastor, a counselor, a minister, and you need to go together. And on one side, you got to back off because maybe your student, your son or daughter isn't as smart as you, You got to let them breathe a little bit. Because sometimes in life, there's so much pressure from above. You're a teenager, You can't bear it. Because you can never follow in the footsteps of your parents. Now, this is just 4. There's many others. But I hope this helps you in terms of perhaps you're thinking about, really hurting yourself. In Christ, there is a way out. And in Christ, there's always deliverance, So pray, seek advice, talk to people, and always live your life under the understanding of the full grace of God.